Welcome to Charleston, South Carolina, and the Southern Collegiate Offshore Regatta. I'm Bob Johnstone. Our videographer is J.J. Kaiser, another Princetonian. We're spectating aboard the MJM 43Z Breeze on a wet, windy weekend in heated comfort, joined by the sailing team's family members and Charleston lodging hosts. 16 colleges were entered. What better way to start the college sailing season than a big boat regatta in Charleston, America's #1 ranked destination city? Listed are boats each team sailed. J-boat owners supported this Charleston event as they had for Larchmont and Chicago. 11 of the 16 boats were J's. There were 4 J105s, 3 J120s, 2 J111s, a J35, and a J36. The Princeton team flew down Thursday night, February 9th, in time for a Friday afternoon practice sail on their assigned J105 Spectacle, sail number 404, with the owner's rep, Irvin Grove from North Sails aboard. Coach Jeremy Fraser and crew captain Jasper Waldman commented on how well the practice went.
It just showed today. I think we got 13 or so jives in, a 400, 500 meter course. So these guys really picked it up quickly, and we're excited for a great day tomorrow.
By the time we were really into it, I wasn't even calling the time anymore. It was just like, okay, I see the bows ready. Oh, we're going into a new jibe. So it was.
And this is our third keelboat event that we've sailed in the last 2 years. So really down here, and we've got a split crew between women and now with 3 women and 3 men.
For team building, Mary and I hosted a dinner at the Carolina Yacht Club, complete with a special Princeton team menu. Since this was also a strategy session, on the back of each menu was a harbor chart showing ebb tide currents sweeping across the projected course for Saturday's 18 to 25 knot northeast winds, showing the preferred upwind and downwind courses to sail. Then another chart showing Sunday's course with moderate southwest winds from the opposite direction. At dinner, it was time to get to know one another. The Reverend Mary started out the fun answering the question, how did you start sailing?
Let me tell you, it's really been an adventure. We sailed J24s and I had bruises all over my hips. Me too! It's like
My father was on the Princeton Sailing Team in 1929. They started the team in 1928.
How I got into sailing, I was around 7.5 years old, and I was the younger brother that was always chasing my older brother, whatever that may be. And when my older brother took up sailing, my family said, okay, well, we'll get you out there, but we're going to give you the trial by fire. So they set me up for my first regatta, first day of sailing, and sent me out. And I think I got out there no more than 5 minutes, tipped over, and quickly learned that this sport was going to be a lot harder to learn than I thought. But
The way I got into the sailing world is one year in 2016, I decided, okay, I'm going to stop going to summer camp and go racing. And then on the 4th day of the season, I broke my leg. So I rode in the coach boat the entire summer, and then that only fueled the passion. So then raced a couple of years, and here we are now.
I'm Bracklyn. I'm a math major and a sophomore. I first was in a sailboat in upstate New York, actually, but I'm from Maryland, and so when I got back, I tried a little bit more sailing, but I didn't really have that much experience until I got to Princeton. So I've learned pretty much all of my current skill set at Princeton.
I'm Virginia Cobbs. I'm studying ecology and evolutionary biology, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, so not a whole lot of sailing. Actually, zero sailing until I got to Princeton. And then there's this kid named Jasper who just wouldn't be quiet about the sailing club. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot. I'm a freshman. You know, I don't know what else I'm going to do on this campus. And I accidentally stumbled into the best club on the planet.
I grew up sailing with my cousins on Sunfish in upstate New York, but never got, really all that good at it. And then I started last year crewing for my brother on an M20, Melger's 20, and, really liked the competition and all that. So when I ran, one of my friends here on the team was already joining, and she talked me into showing up to a practice, and it's quickly become probably one of the best parts of my freshman year. So I've really loved it, and it's brought me to this amazing place. So thank you.
I'm Calif, and I actually discovered sailing at Princeton through this team, and I learned sailing here, and I plan to sail for the rest of my life after this program. And I think as a senior, looking back at the past 3 years, this team and just learning how to sail and the people on the team is definitely the best part of my college years. Yeah.
Sailing at Princeton as a freshman. My roommate at the first week of freshman year told me, "Do you want to come to a sailing party with me?" And I said, "Why not?" They brought me to practice next week, and I've been sailing ever since. And I think I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. So
It was on to Saturday morning and the skipper's meeting, where it was announced that coaches and owners' reps could ride on board the boats, but weren't allowed to actively take part in the sailing. Saturday was wet, cold, and windy. Here's the team on the way to the start of the first race. They ended up third behind Vermont and South Carolina. Then you can see they had a great start in the second race. These courses were no more than 24 to 30 minutes long, double windward leeward. They'd go up around the windward mark, come back to a gate, return to the windward mark, and then go to the finish. Here's some shots of the boats going upwind and then coming to a mark rounding. You'll notice their spinnakers aren't being set. The rule, because of the wind, was no spinnakers today. Ended up second behind Vermont in this second race. The J105s were doing very well in the series. Next, you'll see the start of the third race. Princeton continued to sail well, finishing second in this race behind Vermont. Vermont ended up winning the day with a second and 2 firsts, 3 points ahead of Princeton, who had a third and 2 seconds, with South Carolina in third place. In the strong winds, the J105s did well because their standard small jibs made the boat easier for inexperienced college crews to master compared to boats with large Genoas. It's worth noting that the J105s did very well on corrected time and fleet. At this point, Vermont and Princeton in 105s were 1-2 in fleet, with Coast Guard in Class A third. All in all, it was a good day on the water for Princeton. Here they are, tying the boat up, putting her to bed at the end of the day. Sunday was lighter. Princeton started out with a win, first in class and first in fleet. Here they are, rounding the last weather mark, setting the chute on the way to the finish. One of their better sets during the series. You can see they had a substantial lead over the other boats. They maintained this distance. You can see them finishing with the Charleston's beautiful Ravenel Bridge in the background. After finishing, the excited crew comes over to be congratulated. Number one, you got it. But the euphoria is short-lived. On the start of the second race, they were over early. Here we are looking right down the line. The boat on the far left is Princeton. They are clearly over and can't get back below the line because there's another boat to leeward of them. While other boats that were over early are able to get back and recross the line. Princeton has a problem, however. There are still boats to leeward of it. They were being forced up and prevented from returning to the line to restart. What would the Tigers do in this particular situation? Not yet, team. We've got to get back into this race. They made up a lot of ground by the weather mark, and the wind had died down a bit. You can see this cluster of boats in a tight rounding at the first weather mark. Here's number 404 with Princeton, pole out, bearing off. Another 105 right behind them. And then here comes the J36. Princeton seems to have some trouble getting their chute up, maybe with a twist. This let Vermont in number 313 sail past them. It became a duel going downwind. By the end of the leg, Princeton had gained back some of the distance. On that downwind leg, approaching the leeward gate, it's close. Vermont seems to have an inside overlap if they are both going around the right-hand gate. But no, it's Princeton ahead. They round first. Now it's just a matter of getting that spinnaker stowed. By the finish of this fifth race, Princeton manages to work its way up into second place behind South Carolina. NC State in the J36 crossing ahead of them owed them time on handicap to place fifth. Rounding marks on Sunday's final buoy race offered instruction on how the team could improve in future regattas. Here you see Princeton, followed by Vermont and the Citadel, rounding the first weather mark. South Carolina has already rounded in the lead. The vang is off, the jib isn't trimmed, neither sail is really drawing properly. Vermont doesn't do much better. You have to know jibe angles and current effect when approaching the downwind gate. Here Princeton lost time and distance to South Carolina and Vermont. Vermont led Princeton around the last weather mark, followed by the Citadel. Princeton's jib is cast loose, slowing the boat. The vang is off, with the top of the mainsail not working. Citadel then passes Princeton to windward, but doesn't set the chute. The Tigers finally get organized, but have lost more distance to Vermont. The leeward mark location and downwind angles are again misjudged, and the spinnaker dropped too soon. With the jib finally trimmed in, they are on their way to the finish of the last race. Even with a few mishaps, Princeton finished the last day with a first, second, and third in class, and a first, sixth, and fourth in fleet out of the 18 boats. At the awards presentation, South Carolina was awarded first place in Class B, with Princeton runner-up ahead of Vermont. Was this a surprise?
In finishing second, we have Princeton Sailing.
This crew of Princeton Tigers did well. Unofficially, if the score had been based upon the cumulative corrected time in fleet, combining both A and B divisions from each race, Princeton would have won the regatta overall by 2 points, with South Carolina in second.